Being good at one shooting sport doesn't make you good at all of them. Variety is good for the soul. This is the road to PRS.
Impact.
Hey, welcome back. It's time to finish up the load development series for the 6-dasher PRS rifle with a comparison of my hand load to a standard. And the standard today is going to be Eagle Eye factory ammunition. Now, Eagle Eye is a boutique manufacturer that makes 6-dasher ammo with a 105 grain Burger hybrid bullet, which is good because that's going to match my hand load pretty darn well. In order to compare the two, we need to compare it on two metrics. The first is cost, and then the second will be performance. So let's start with cost. The cost of factory ammunition is really easy to articulate. This Eagle Eye ammunition is $260 per 100 rounds, which means that if the barrel only lasts 2,000 rounds, you're going to expend $5,200 to fire every round through that barrel for its entire life. We're going to put that aside for a moment and take a look at the cost of components, just the components, to shoot 2,000 rounds through a barrel while hand loading. In order to do this, we're going to have to buy 2,000 bullets, 2,000 primers, a little bit over 9 pounds of powder, we'll just call it 10, and you have to buy cases. But how many? Well, if we're going to reuse them a lot, we can just buy 300. You need to have 300 minimum so that you can go to big matches. Because when I go to a big match, I have 300 loaded rounds. Because there's the main match, like a Pro Series match, and then there might be some side matches that consume some more ammo, or sighting in, or troubleshooting if you're having problems. So you need to have 300 pieces of brass to work with. All that added up, $1,930 if we can get the bullets in 500 count boxes and we can get the powder in an 8-pound jug. If you're buying singles, well, it can be a little more expensive there. Altogether, let's just say it's $2,000 for components. So we now have a disparity. We have $2,000 for 2,000 rounds or $5,200 for 2,000 rounds. You're probably saying, yeah, hand loading's cheaper. But is it? The first thing we have to consider is residual value. When you take that factory ammunition with alpha OCD brass and fire it, you have something left. That brass has value. It has significant value, anywhere from 50 cents to $1 a piece. Now, nobody wants to be the guy on the range going, psst, want to buy some once fired? But at the same time, there is some value there. And you need to deduct that from the cost because you can resell that brass. So let's say we get 80 cents a piece for the brass, and that means we're down to $3,600 for the Eagle Eye ammunition. Still a bit of a disparity in the cost, if you will. But there's also another cost that we didn't consider, and that is load development. See, the 2,000 rounds over here for hand loads, we're going to expend 10% of those doing load development and barrel testing. With factory ammo, well, we might have a bad match the first match as the barrel breaks in, but beyond that, we aren't going to waste a whole lot of barrel life messing around with load development. So ultimately, the factory ammo effectively makes your barrel last longer. Now we have to consider what it takes to actually do the work of hand loading. Now I'm lucky. I'm set up for F-class hand loading, so I have the annealer, I have the case trimmer, I have the press, I have the dies, I have the scale, and I have the powder dispenser, I have all the priming tools, and all the other ancillary devices that are necessary to make high-quality ammunition, which has a cost to it that will make your spouse weep. I've collected all this stuff over a more than decade-long career of shooting in F-class. If you don't have this stuff, it could be a little daunting to acquire and very expensive. And then, even after I have all the stuff that makes it super efficient and super quick to load, I'm still spending about 3 hours a week loading ammunition to either practice or shoot matches with. Well, that becomes a pretty big burden on your family life or on your ability to maybe work a little extra, get some overtime. In the end, the way I see it, hand loading does have value. Monetarily, only if you're going to do one of a few things. The first thing is if you're going to point bullets to get a little better BC, to be more competitive. But you have to be a pretty high-level shooter before that really makes any difference in your outcomes, at least in PRS. Or you're going to shoot a different bullet, like a 110 grain A-tip. Once again, you're going to have to be a pretty high-level competitor before that makes any difference in your outcomes. So ultimately, the cost, I'm calling a wash here because I can make more money working than the difference in cost between hand loading and factory ammo. But that only works if the performance is the same or better. So let's go take a look. Performance comparison is going to be pretty simple here. We're going to compare velocity variation, not total velocity, and we're going to compare group sizes at 600 yards. Now, right off the bat, there is a difference in average velocity. The Eagle Eye ammunition does about 28.85 out of my barrel, and my Handloads do about 29.40. I'm running just a little hotter. That doesn't matter that much when you get right down to it, so we're going to skip over that. Velocity variation was so similar that I couldn't really tell the difference between the two. As a matter of fact, there was no statistically significant difference because the ESs for 5 shots were very much typically less than 10 for both options. Now let's talk about group size. Mine tuned carefully by hand to my barrel, shot just under half minute of angle on average every time I went out, which means that for 5 shots I had a very good string. But the Eagle Eye ammunition, by comparison, shot almost identically. It was scary how close it was to my highly tuned, specialized load for my barrel. I have done seating depth and powder charge specifically for this barrel, and theirs, done for even a different length of barrel, shot almost as good in my barrel, to the point where I can't say for sure that mine was better or theirs was better. So in the end, is there any difference? There might be. If you shoot up several boxes of it, you might figure out that there's a difference. But for me, I don't see anything that is worth chasing. In other words, I have an equivalent level of precision and accuracy, which is all you really need. Because once again, we are far exceeding the needed precision level for PRS. Is hand loading for PRS worth it? It depends on whether you do hand loading as a hobby in and of itself. For me, I enjoy hand loading, so I'm going to do that. If you aren't hand loading already and you just want to get started shooting competitively in PRS, you might consider whether there's a factory offering that you can use to get yourself started. All right, guys, until next time, shoot straight, and I'll see you in the next video.